Major funding for these programs is provided by grants from Capital One Bank and Perfect Building Maintenance, Murray Hill Properties, SJP Properties, Cushman & Wakefield, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, New York Community Bank, Bank of America, Kilroy Metal Products, New York's Window Company. Additional funding is provided by Akron Gold Brothers, LLC, Briarwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, City Investment Fund, Essex Capital Partners, Excel Realty Advisors, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, First Service Williams, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, Helmsley Spear, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Madison Realty Capital, M&T Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Muss Development, Palin Enterprises, Rosenthal & Rosenthal, Signature Bank, Sterling & Sterling, Stephen Napolitano, Stonehenge Partners, Studley, the Moynihan Group.
Hi, my name is Michael Stoller. I should be wearing my chef's hat today because I have all of these premier restaurateurs, chefs, who really make New York City what it is today. My guests today include Marty Shapiro, partner at Myriad Restaurants, David Pasnak, co-owner and chef at Esca, Terrence Brennan, proprietor, chef of Artisanal and Picholine. Okay, and last but not least, David Swinghammer, president of Union Square Hospitality. That was easy. So, David, since you are Union Square, and everybody knows about Danny Meyer restaurants and your restaurants and the Shake Shack, what's happening in the restaurant business today?
Well, a lot's happening. A lot has changed. What we saw last year were the city was still busy with a lot of tourists that were coming to visit. The United States was on sale, and it isn't anymore. The currency exchange has changed. Now it's more than ever about the locals, and you have to really have a loyal base of customers to really thrive right now in the restaurant business without feeling like you're really feeling the economy.
Now, how many restaurants do you operate today?
We have 13 restaurants, a catering company, and a jazz club right now, currently.
And you, Marty, you have what, 9?
Yes, including Nobu in London, and also a wine shop called Crush on 57th Street.
And you, Mr. Pasnak?
1.5.
1.5. Why do you call that a half? Shea is not Shea. I forgot.
Citi Field.
Okay, for my audience, you see, I put them on different sides because they're both going to be in Citi Field. David's going to have the catch of the day,
yes.
And you?
Well, we have we're doing a version of Shake Shack, Blue Smoke, El Verano Taqueria, and Box Frites. So 2 new things we're creating for Citi Field, along with the Delta Sky 360 Club.
So you're the Delta Sky 360. I don't want to. And Marty, you're going to be.
We're the Acela Club, which is named after the train for speed and excellence, and I hope we reflect that. But ours is going to be probably the biggest restaurant of the group. It's going to be sort of like a real, I would say, a real Americana, if you will, it's going to have a lot of representation of all the ethnic groups in the city. We're going to be doing spit roasted herb chicken. We're going to be doing heritage porchetta. We're going to be doing an Al Forno station with things like baked garganelli, with short rib bolognese. And then sort of a twist on the whole thing is after you order your entree, you go up and we have this beautiful market table, and you can help yourself to house-made charcuterie, salumis, handcrafted artisanal cheeses, compliments of courtesy of Terry's company, former company. I guess, and lots of, we feature a lot of local purveyors and farmers. We're going to be having a lot of grilled and seasonal roast vegetables, and then you come back down to your seats. We have 400 seats looking out from left field, overlooking beautiful Citi Field.
But you can sit at the restaurant.
Oh yeah, no. You actually, the seats are actually overlooking the stadium. So we have 3 tiers, which will have about 150 seats right there, and then in the restaurant another couple of hundred. So, and all have a great view of the stadium.
And you with the Delta Club?
Well, that is the club that is the seats behind home plate and the 10 boxes right behind home plate. And so that is a big space, about 26,000 square feet. And we divided that into 4 different sections. We have a sit-down restaurant that will be, fine dining, but not fine dining, so much so that it doesn't fit in the ballpark. It's just going to be a nice place to sit down and have dinner before the game. A great bar and lounge. And then we're doing a marketplace also of all types of ballpark food that we think is just really great for a ballpark, such as wood-fired pizzas and of all kinds, different things of that nature, and then a beer and wine bar too.
But that's going to be in the Delta Club. But what about on the outside of the field, like David has? What are you going to have? You're going to have a Shake Shack?
Well, you guys are in left field, yeah?
Well, we're right in center. We're just right, not too far from
You're right
David.
over the bridge from us.
Yeah, and there's an area, kind of a plaza area there near the scoreboard, where there's a couple of separate buildings there. We will have Shake Shack and Blue Smoke, and then we've again created a taqueria, which is El Verano Taqueria, and then Box Frites, which is a Belgian frites. So we've created those 4 things really in thinking about when we go to a ball game, what kind of food do we really want to eat when we're there, and so we thought that would be a lot of fun to do.
David?
We have like tunnels maybe between the restaurants so we can all like eat at each other's restaurants while we're there or something like that.
You got to pass.
Okay.
Pretty fast,
Okay.
definitely.
The stadium is very accessible, though. It's really easy to get around with the new
we were
design.
talking prior to the show. I said, how come you guys don't have anything outside of Manhattan? And, then you said, oh, we're in Queens now. Because, Terrence didn't know anything about that. So since you are isolated, you don't know. So what's happening? You said to me before the show that this is the greatest time for a restaurateur to open up a restaurant because the landlords who are going to be on my show next week, really are hungry and they want.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the greatest time. It's a very. I'm an opportunist, and I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. Unfortunately, some restaurants are going out of business, and there are the leases are definitely coming down, and especially if you have a motivated developer who looks at your restaurant or concept as an amenity to the project, and you're a well-known chef or a restaurateur or a good operator, you can really secure a good deal.
I think I was at the Empire Hotel. I think did that recently with I'm not sure who the
with the steakhouse with Jeffrey Shatterow.
Right.
Yes.
They did the same thing because the hotel wanted something. They wanted a different atmosphere because the Empire never had anything good in that neighborhood over there. Esca, what's going on with Esca and the neighborhood and so on?
Esca in the neighborhood is good. Hell's Kitchen is it's changed dramatically. If you go down 9th Avenue or 8th Avenue, there's a crane on every block, and it's amazing how many new buildings are going up. And some of it's residential, some of it is commercial. So the neighborhood is really good. And we're in Manhattan Plaza, which is always colorful.
What do you mean?
What do you mean colorful?
What do you mean colorful?
Well, Manhattan Plaza is the artists, actors, and musicians building.
But they can't afford to be in your restaurant,
You'd be surprised. They have a great deal.
Oh, they have a
you
good
wish
deal.
you were living there.
True.
Okay, so we were talking about a good deal. What's happening in the restaurant business with regard to, we are in a recession, we're in a difficult time. What's happening with regard to people drinking more beer as opposed to wine? Do you see certain changes in the consumption or in the pricing?
Well, I see sales going up in that regard. I think it's pretty well known that these days that the bars are doing well. And bars, standalone bars, but also the bars and restaurants are doing well. The high-priced wines are not doing quite as well. People want value, and these days they want to have a few more cocktails than they normally have had.
I absolutely agree. I think that I think wine is doing well. It's just not the upper end. You have your pockets where people still are spending money, but people are still drinking. People want to have a good time. But it is really about providing value. I think that's really the key. At Cortone, we opened up, picked the best time in the world to open up a high-end restaurant downtown. Thank God it's doing really terrific. The chef and the staff, they're doing a really wonderful job. But we have on the list, we have a section called country wines. And we have 50 bottles that are between $35 and $60.
That's the range.
And, I mean, they sell like crazy. I mean, there are people ordering great wines too, but, you've got to give people value.
Which is what David said before. You have to look at the value, and you can keep the higher price, but you have to keep all venues. What do you now? You're opening up a new restaurant. What's the restaurant going to be like?
I'm opening up two restaurants, and then I have a new concept called the Artisanal Table, and it's a pizzeria, tapas, and wine bar. And I think that concept is just perfect for the times. I mean, if you go around the city and restaurants that are busy, are there smaller spaces that are serving half plates, or I'm trying to a new term for small or half plates, but I'll figure that out. And then those kind of casual restaurants where you can spend $30, you can spend $75, and they're busy. And New Yorkers they're still going out, but they change their dining habits. I mean, I think all New Yorkers, like, it's in their DNA to go out to eat. They have to get out at some point and start eating again, and they are. I mean, and so it's just, I think that this is a big shakedown, and it's all making us work harder and becoming better business people, better restaurateurs, and better chefs, because it's really, we always thought it was about the customer, but it is really all about the customer now.
And that was the question that I said prior to the show. How do you? I mean, you've been in business close to 20 years. Okay, your operation is over 22 or 23 years. With Union Square, you've been in business over 20 years, and you, with all of your operations, close to 20 years. How do you keep people coming back? How do you keep that people saying, I want to go to Tribeca, I want to go to Gramercy, I want to go to Nobu? How do you get
It's quality and consistency in our business, because any chef or any restaurateur can have a great one night, 2 nights, or put out the best piece of sea bass that night. But to do it time and again on a couple hundred covers, day in and day out, that's the hardest challenge. And then you have to stay motivated. I mean, I get up every day. 15 years later, I'm still trying to make Pichley a better restaurant. 8 years later, I'm still making, trying to make Artisanal a better restaurant. And that's what keeps me going.
But that's why you were just nominated for the Chef of the Year again.
Yeah, again, right?
The 7th time. I mean, no, I mean, that's it. And that's part of the reason that all of you guys have been.
And you instill that in your staff too, and you just keep pushing, and it's all about excellence, and that's what you strive for every day. You fall somewhere.
You have to keep it exciting.
Yeah.
It's got to be exciting for the guests when they come in a restaurant, and dining should be fun. And, in this environment, people are looking to go out and relax, forget about what's going on outside in the world a little bit, and try to enjoy themselves and have a little bit more fun.
But let's get to the other situation. The three of you are going to a total different change now also by going to Citi Field. This is something, I mean, people didn't go to the New York City stadiums ever to eat. Okay, they were there and they were captive in this miserable environment. I mean, I'm older than you, was the Harry M. Stevens venue. So now we're going into a different venue. How do you think New Yorkers, because you're going to see New Yorkers going to these restaurants as opposed to, as you said, tourists and others, how are they going to feel towards the restaurants?
That's natural evolution. I mean, New Yorkers, it's not like New Yorkers never expected high quality. They expect high quality no matter where they go. But I think...
But if they go to the Garden, they know they're never going to have decent quality.
Right. So I think it was more about the Wilpons having, the understanding and the intuition that, New Yorkers are just going and they're accepting fare, and they don't really need to. And why not? We have great food in New York all over the place. It doesn't matter if it's a hot dog stand.
I'm telling you, people are so excited. Like, you tell a customer, they go, how's it coming with Citi Field? And you tell them what you're going to be serving. I made this, blackened shrimp po' boy. And they look at you and they go, I'm going to have that at a baseball game?
Yeah, they absolutely do. And they're so excited to a person. I think, occasionally you hit these things where it's just, nobody ever thought of it in that context, and why shouldn't you have great food at a ball game? and food that you just really want when you're there. And so many people are just saying, you mean I can have that there? That is incredible. And the Wilpons, you're right, and the Mets, they've known that.
Their vision, they have a great vision.
Now, what about price point? I mean,
it's
we
cheap.
know. oh, sure. What do you mean it's cheap?
I mean, like, I can only talk about catch it a day. You know, you can you can have a real flounder sandwich for $7.50.
Yeah, and we're looking at the same thing. Look,
at Shake Shack.
Or any of them. It's going to be more expensive maybe than what you would normally pay just by virtue of the ballpark and the economics of a ballpark. But that is something that we've been very sensitive to, and the Mets and Aramark have been very sensitive to in this venture. So they want to make sure they provide value, and you know, it's too important to all of us because you know, our reputations are on line too as far as coming through with that.
Now, are you going to be cooking off-site or cooking on-site?
No, cooking on-site. They built Citi Field with a commissary, beautiful commissary, and then each one of the individual operations has a kitchen aspect built into the stand or, you know, in the restaurant.
But we're talking about a venue that operates right now 83 times. It's going to be 81 games plus the 2 exhibition games, and if they get into the playoffs, it's going to be greater. I mean, you operate 365 a day, 365 days. You operate most of your restaurants. Isn't it a little different to run a part-time restaurant and a full-time restaurant?
Oh, absolutely, it is. But it's not something that we're not used to. With our catering company, we're used to gearing up for different times of the year. So, you know, the holiday seasons, the spring, very busy. So we're used to cycles like that, too.
You know, we were talking before about catering business, private parties. What's happening with the business, Terrence?
Well, this is true all over the city. The private parties have declined drastically, and I just have a small party room at Picheline, it seats 24, and so it's not a large part of my business, but it's certainly off. But friends of mine who maybe 30%, some people are 20–30% of their business is private parties, and it's just not happening. I mean, it's almost a dirty word, you know. If a company is going to do, you know, a private function at a restaurant, it's like, oh my God. Even if they can afford it, it's bad for their image.
It's criminal.
So,
right?
Yeah, it seems criminal, but it's not, and it's really hurting the industry big time. I mean, hotels, you know, restaurants, private parties, catering. I mean, it's just,
yeah, particularly like the finance firms. I mean, they've, you know, look, they've been demonized, and that's not to say that, you know, certain things that happened shouldn't have happened the way they did, but you know, now it's gotten to the point where you know, all this effort to stimulate the economy, provide jobs for people, it's kind of backfiring in a certain way because, you know, there's a certain amount that's natural business for them to do, and they won't do it. You know, I know people at Citigroup just, you know, they won't come out because they don't want to be on the front cover like AIG. So what happens is, you know, the restaurants are doing less parties, less business. It's hurting, you know, the waiters, the bussers.
But at Hudson Yards Catering, though, for instance, just was the people still have their private parties, and a lot of them, and they still want to do them because there's special occasions for them. So those,
particularly the social.
Yeah, the social sector is still going to do
social even more.
Right. Right.
A lot of weddings. I think people are getting married now. I'm getting married. Actually, you know, my fiance and I went to your restaurant for our first date like 5 years ago, Eska. But so that was a good omen. But you know, I agree with David. It
was bait.
There you go. She actually didn't talk to me for a year after that. But you know, social parties that people are still going out. But we have a couple of private rooms, a 35 seat,
you have a couple of private rooms.
Oh yes, we have many of our restaurants do.
Now, I mean, you're in MoMA. How's business at MoMA type these days?
Business is very solid, and the private party business has held up there, believe it or not, and it's and we feel fortunate about that. But it has, and MoMA has had very good attendance, and certainly that has helped. And our location there, I think, is very good, so it has held up quite nicely.
You know, how about financing today? You're looking to open up 2 restaurants that you said. You know, I mean, there's certain financing expenses for Citi Field and otherwise. How are the banks reacting to when you guys go out there to look for financing?
Well, I haven't had to go to the banks. I've gotten a lot of TI from developers and whatnot. And banks aren't, even in good times, they weren't, you know, it's tough to lend to restaurants.
It's a criminal word, restaurants.
Well,
no, I'm not being...
But, and then also the private sector. You know, I get monies from the private sector that's
Or investors, or
the investors. Yeah.
What about yourself?
Citi Field, the Mets, at least in my case, they financed everything.
Mm-hmm. But now, you know, your partners own how many other restaurants in the city?
They own a lot of restaurants. I couldn't even tell you how many.
So how do you think they're doing in this
I mean, you know, they do have some partners in some of their later ventures. You know, in all their beginning ventures, it was all done with their own capital.
You know, I remember I had a friend a number of years ago who bought the P.J. Clark's, and my wife said to me, if you invest, the restaurant will go bankrupt. If you don't invest, the restaurant will do great. That's why the P.J. Clark's did well on, you know, the biggest problem I'd see of having investors in a restaurant is everybody wants to be running the restaurant. You know, they want the discount. You know, they want to go.
No, you don't set up that. You have to have, you know, solid investors, and they can absolutely have no say in how you run your business. It's got to be strictly just an investment. You know, and that's it. And you know, and you come in and maybe you give them certain PXs or VIP treatment, but they certainly just don't come in and sign.
Yeah, when we opened up Tribeca Grill, we had I think around 16 or 18 investors, many of which were celebrities. Right. And so, you know, you really could have seen if we all hadn't agreed to something in advance, that it could have gotten out of hand. But it was very upfront that everybody pays, including Robert De Niro, Bill Murray, Sean Penn. They all pay, and that's the way you got to run your business. Otherwise, you're not going to be in business.
Yeah, we have a super group of investors, and they're just all so supportive, and they're there when we want them to be there, giving opinions. But not trying to run the business.
Right.
So you know,
essential.
What do you look like? You know, we're in 2009. We're in a recession. How do you plan for the future? You're being aggressive. You're opening up two new restaurants. You guys always have, you know, but following Danny's concept, you know, it took him time from 1986 to 1994. Part of it relating to the fact that his father filed bankruptcy, and he learned that the world can change. So you're difficult. How do you look at it today? Are you going to open up more restaurants?
We are definitely growing. Now is a wonderful time actually to grow, as long as you have the funds to be able to do so. Real estate prices are coming down, becoming actually more normal now.
Landlords are becoming user-friendly.
For example, I mean, I had this Artisanal Table, the pizzeria concept idea for a couple of years, but I could never find that real estate in New York was just too expensive to do it. And now I have an accepted offer in Chelsea where the numbers work, but 2-3 years ago, the numbers wouldn't work.
I got it. I'm on some emails for different brokers, but I was just last night just looking at this one person who sends me emails. I guess I'm on his list. You guys probably get the same, but you know, since January 1, it was like over 70 different offerings, and you know, a lot of spaces like the key money is either disappearing or very small.
Right.
The prices are coming down, so you know, when you have a forest fire, it's a horrible, horrible event. But out of that,
but it puts you in the driver's seat. I went to my landlord.
There you go. The morels come up.
You know, I went to my landlord and I asked him to extend my lease. You know, back to 20 years with all the options that I have on it and everything. And he said, no problem.
No, I mean,
so
today,
it gives you that good advantage.
I think, you know, even though we're in this difficult time, I think it's a great time for you because you can, as you just an example of renewing your lease. I mean, you can go in and you probably can get between 6 to 9 months, maybe my friends will be angry with me after mentioning this, 6 to 9 months free rent. You can get TI as opposed to paying key money. They'll give you money to be in the restaurant because if they have any of the 4 of you operating a restaurant, it's going to help their operation.
Right.
And landlords do not want empty spaces. You know, they do not want that because they're not. In today's environment, if one of us would leave their space, they're not going to release it.
And they want experience. They want to know that they'll get paid the rent. And when you have a good track record, and of doing that, running a very good business, and on top of it, can be an amenity to their building. then they win, even if they're receiving less rent.
Yeah, I think a good example was Jack Resnick and Sons when they put a Palm down not too far from you. I don't really consider that Tribeca, but you know, they call it Tribeca. That they put it in over there because it was a good amenity for the building. You know, that amenity of the situation. You know, with regard to my joke before with Terrence, besides going to Citi Field, have any of you ever thought of going to any of the boroughs?
Well, I'm from the boroughs. You know, I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, and also in Manhattan. But you know, I think the boroughs are really coming into their own, and I think I don't know if it was in the green room or wherever we were talking earlier, but David was saying that a lot of the restaurants, you know, it's about being local now, and you know, Brooklyn has just taken off as a community because Manhattan got overpriced. People couldn't afford to stay there, so you know, now you even have people that are in Brooklyn maybe that don't want to come to Manhattan because, you know, they don't want to spend, you know, to go across the river or something like that. So I think Brooklyn is certainly a terrific place, but you know, everything comes in cycles, and things are really coming down in Manhattan. I think you know, the condominiums are going to come down, and it's going to.
Terrence?
And something interesting came across my desk from Brooklyn. I would certainly look at it very seriously. You know.
Yeah, and I think Harlem, you know, is worth a hard.
Harlem, you know, I was
places up there. It's really taking off.
And let me tell you, right now, landlords are very hungry in Harlem because the world, they were pricing themselves out of the market, but right now the market is down, and you know.
We tried to do a restaurant there many years ago, but we just got caught up in some red tape and stuff like that. But I think Harlem's a tremendous area and really poised for growth.
And we're loving Queens right now, right?
We love Queens.
We love
so we're in the outer boroughs.
Okay, so the outer boroughs. I'd like to say, you know, 30 minutes is not enough time to have the best restaurateurs, operators, and chefs, and I'd like to thank Marty Shapiro, David Pasternak, Terrence Brennan, and last but not least, David Swinghammer. Next week, we talk about retail, which is perfect because maybe we can make some good deals for you. See you next week.
Major funding for these programs is provided by grants from Capital One Bank and Perfect Building Maintenance, Murray Hill Properties, SJP Properties, Cushman & Wakefield, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, New York Community Bank, Bank of America, Kilroy Metal Products, New York's Window Company. Additional funding is provided by Akron Gold Brothers, LLC, Briarwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, City Investment Fund, Essex Capital Partners, Excel Realty Advisors, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, First Service Williams, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, Helmsley Spear, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Madison Realty Capital, M&T Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Muss Development, Palin Enterprises, Rosenthal & Rosenthal, Signature Bank, Sterling & Sterling, Stephen Napolitano, Stonehenge Partners, Studley, The Moynihan Group.